Welcome to the Free Cities Podcast. My name is Timothy Allen, and this is the official podcast of the Free Cities Foundation. Hello, and welcome to episode number 29 of the Free Cities Podcast. I'm recording this intro back in Prague again. We're here for BTC Prague, which is the biggest Bitcoin conference in Europe, and it's only day 2 for me, and I can report back already that I've had some excellent conversations for this podcast, so look out for those in the coming months, of course. But back to today's show. Well, it's certainly a long one this week, nearly 3 hours in total, but there was a lot to get through. This conversation was my first in Montenegro within the Montelibero community. So, for those of you that don't know, Montelibero is an intentional community of mostly Russian-speaking libertarians that appears in our Free Communities directory. Myself and Peter Young travelled there last month on a fact-finding mission to see what kind of progress is being made in their quest to, in quotes, become a role model of liberty in practice in Montenegro. Now, due to its decentralised nature, there are no actual spokespeople as such who can speak on behalf of the community as a whole, but one individual who goes by the name of Jose Birkin, that's not his real name of course, stepped up to answer my questions about the ins and outs of running a startup intentional community such as this. Now, a quick word of warning before you dive in. For an hour or so, we ended up talking quite in depth about the blockchain tokenomics system that the community uses to transact internally, track ownership of their land titles, and make community decisions, etc. And this part of the conversation may become a little tedious for some of you, since I was not personally, and to be honest, I'm still not really, of the opinion that one needs to use a blockchain in this situation. So I did rather labour the point somewhat in order to get the whole thing straight in my head. Long and short of it is, whilst I still think that their solution is not necessarily a good long-term one, I do understand the reasons why they chose to go down that route. Other than that, we talk about the history of the community, the pros and the cons of building in Montenegro, and how the community functions without having any one person in charge. I also get to ask the question, who will build the roads? Which is always a pleasure. So look out for that one, and also look out in the future for more interviews that I conducted whilst I was there with other residents of Montelibero who have either bought land or property. Montelibero is an exciting experiment, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. And I would like to offer once again another big thank you to the community who welcomed us with open arms during our time in the country. In the meantime, enjoy the pod. You know the drill by now. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Jose Birkin. Say a few words and I'll make sure your levels are good.
Okay, my name is Jose Birkin, and I am not representing in any way the Montelibero community or the movement.
Okay, that's brilliant. And my first question is, do you say Montelibero or Montelibero? Because Libero, I've heard it said. It's spelt Montelibero.
Right.
How do you say it?
Montelibero.
Okay, right. Because I was saying Montelibero without the E, but it kind of sounds like that anyway.
It kind of sounds like that, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's one of the options.
Right.
One of the variant.
Okay, so I should probably set the scene. So we are in Montenegro, and we are in the clubhouse of the Montelibero community. Is that right?
Exactly.
I mean, I've got so many questions. I almost don't even know where to start because it's such a big concept about what's going on here. But I suppose let me tell you what I know already, and you can see whether I'm getting the right idea. Okay, so
absolutely.
So you were originally a community of Russians who were looking for a place to set up a kind of libertarian community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sure. You've ended up in Montenegro. You've managed to commandeer about 4 hectares of land where there is now building work going on and things are, and you've managed to also, it's now quite an international project. You've got people from all around the world buying little plots of land and preparing to build and stuff. And where we are now, which is called the Clubhouse, is a house that you're renting in the nearby town, which is the base for everything. No one lives here. It is what it says. It's a clubhouse. And you kind of, it's almost like you do live communally here, right? Like if someone's cooking, you cook for everyone. Is that right? Is that how it works? Or is it just describe what the clubhouse is. Obviously, it's a place to meet, and is it only for people who are part of the Montelibero thing?
Right. The clubhouse is, it serves as a community center of some sort. So basically what we do is, like, you don't really have to be a resident of the clubhouse to be able to claim that you're part of the Montelibero movement in the first place.
Oh, so you do have membership here then? You have membership? Yes. Okay, right.
Technically, yes. It's like a private club, and you get to answer a few questions, and so we can actually trust you because everything is built on trust. We don't want any random people, roaming around, just to because there are kids around, running around. There are there's stuff left unattended, and you don't want to worry about that. Yeah. So yeah, it just feels like home, and it has a homey feeling, home away from home.
It does.
But it was a private initiative. We've talked with Soz today, and it was his private initiative to set up a little...
Soz, a bit of it interject. Soz is a guy that I've met already.
Yes.
That he's been showing us around. We went for a site visit up to the place where the buildings are being built. I might keep butting in because I know more than the people listening. I'm finding a lot out, and I'm really excited to find even more out because I came in knowing almost nothing, and in one morning I've gleaned quite a lot of information. But so you have to bear with me on this. So sorry, carry on. So the clubhouse here. First, another question about the clubhouse. Was it set up before you got the land?
No, we got the land first, and then when Soz came over with his family, he thought it might be actually a good idea to have a place of our own, so we could just put our heads together to generate ideas, brainstorm, that kind of thing. Because this is what an internal community is for. Sorry, an intentional community is for. What was that? So yeah. You can add it.
So you definitely call yourself an intentional community then, because at Free Cities here we know free cities are a spectrum. One of the ways you can sort of, one of the things people are building are, intentional communities. The way I would class that, correct me if I'm wrong, a community with a common intention. Would that be a good way to describe it? I mean, you're all libertarians, I take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you don't really have to be a libertarian, or you don't have to be an ANCAP supporter to be resident of this club, but you still have to adhere to the NAP principle, the non-aggression principle. So yes, what I would say is that we don't like to label ourselves. Again, I'm not speaking on behalf of the whole community because it's totally decentralized in everything. But yes, we could probably call ourselves an intentional community because this serves a purpose, right? We are all very, very much free thinkers. We are very, very liberal. We support private initiative, and we have sort of the same views on the government and its role in our life.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, I'll probably reiterate that, actually, because you've been making a point of pointing this out to me, a lot today so far, is that you are not a spokesman of Montelibero. And I get that now. It is an anarchic system in a way. It's a very decentralized. I mean, maybe anarchic's too strong, but it is a decentralized community. Even though it's kind of evolving in a place, it is completely decentralized from what I can tell. Maybe you could go a little bit into that. How does a decentralized community like that even work? I mean, how do you make a decision? Or how does the community come together to make a decision, or do they not?
Well, what we need to separate is the community of people who support the initiative, Montelibero initiative, to make it a better place, to make it an economically thriving country, and, for example, the fund activities, because you don't really have to buy MTL tokens to call yourself a supporter of the Montelibero movement.
Hold a minute. We got to talk about MTL tokens first. Okay. There's so much to talk about here. Like, maybe once again, I'll say what I know. Right. Because there's going to be a lot of people going, tokens? What does that mean even?
Right.
And yes. I've kind of got to the bottom of this because I had a lot of questions about this myself. And I've worked out, I've just paid for some stuff here at the clubhouse using a euro stable coin, which you basically just created yourselves. So, but MTL tokens are something different, aren't they? They're like shares in Montelibero, the project.
Exactly.
Okay, you've got to be careful because a lot of our listeners are kind of, well, I'd say that a lot of hardcore Bitcoiners, when they hear the word token, they're like,
yeah.
But you know what I mean? But I know, I understand now. Sure, but we can go into that. So MTL tokens are like a share in the equity
fund
of it? Oh, the fund, right. And the fund is a fund that is paying for building.
Yes. Basically, what the fund does is it acquired land, the 4 hectares you mentioned earlier. It also is responsible for the construction because it works in direct partnership with the construction company that was founded by one of our members. And basically, the construction company was built and was organized as a legal entity to be the sole partner with the fund.
Can I just ask you something about that? Because one of the free city models is the free private city, where there's a city operator that operates the city. What's the role? Who takes on that role in your community? Like, you've got sewage, you've got electricity, you've got blah blah blah. How's that going to work?
Right. If you are part of the fund, and the only way to actually do this, to get inside the system, is to buy the MTL coin. That just shows you the token. That shows your interest in the system, and that shows that you are ready to commit to our community and to the development of our movement. So basically, we've got a multi-signature on blockchain, and there are 20 people who are on blockchain who are responsible for making decisions and for signing like important what do I say?
Yeah, I know what you mean. So it's a 20 sig, multi-sig, is it?
Exactly. Yes.
If anything needs to be done involving movement of value on the chain,
right,
it's a 20 multi-sig, is that right?
Well, yes, you need to get the majority of signatures, and you will get depending on the number of MTL tokens that you own, you will get this or that number of votes.
Oh, it's like a proof of stake then. kind of system. You know, more stake you have, the more voting you have. Okay, so and is that voting on what the money gets spent on in the community? So if they say, right, we need some new irrigation, but someone disagrees, they could potentially veto it, but only if they've got a lot of stake in the whole place.
Well, technically, yes, because that already shows your involvement in the system. And why would you how would you veto it if you were outside the system, or if you hadn't committed in the fund and in the involvement of the community in the first place?
And how and to be a part of the network, the MTL network, do you have to have property within Montelibero, or can you be an investor or whatever?
No, you can just be an investor, right? You might be living in a different country for all I know. As long as you would like to support us, feel free to do so.
But say I bought a plot of land. I know there's no plots left anymore. There's a secondary market, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. But say I wanted to buy a plot of land to build a place. Do you say you have to then join the network? So you have to buy some MTL equity or whatever it is, or is it automatically that? Because that's what I'm doing when I'm buying the bit of land, if you see what I mean.
Right. It's now I realize it's a bit more complicated than this, because we have more tokens. First, we had the MTL City token, which you could buy land, and now these tokens have been exchanged for the NFTs.
Oh my God, here we go.
Yes, yeah. I know. That prove that you own this specific land. We actually needed this because we wanted people to have some guarantee that they actually own not some abstract land, but this particular plot of land that is already in the books.
So you created NFTs out of all of the plots?
Yes. So I have 2 plots, so that means I have 2 NFTs with these specific, unique numbers that show my ownership. The problem is that if you're a physical entity living in Montenegro, and if you come from CIS, the former Soviet Union countries, you can't own land in Montenegro. You can only own houses, but you can't buy land, which is so this is one way around the system.
I see. Right. Okay. So it's complicated already.
I know.
But I understand. I was. So let me recap. So
I can start from scratch. Right.
Okay.
There's the fund.
Right.
That the only interest of which is to make sure we thrive as a movement, and it's called Montelibero Fund. Let's call it this way. There is actually a legal entity called Montelibero in Montenegro.
Yeah, and that's basically a pot of money, which is a pot of investment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the money is spent on various things. For example, at the moment, 40% of all our assets is in land and the construction, because the fund owns part of the land that we've seen today. Then there are some other investments that the fund supports. For example, local businesses. I told you earlier about the car rental business. There are some other little businesses, for example, buying and selling stuff, right? We are going to invest in some businesses, like one guy is going to open his burger place. So he's going to just, have his own restaurant. Yeah,
that's in town, right? That's not on the site yet.
Not yet, because there's not much to do there still.
Yeah, but what, in the future he's planning on putting it on the site?
We'll see about that. Like, if there's demand, obviously we're all libertarians. We know how the market works. Then part of it is invested in the Bitcoin. So whenever you buy MTL shares, it's backed by Bitcoin as well, and gold as well. And then there's cash, obviously. So we own some cash in the form of Euro MTL, which is backed by cash.
And I should interject again. Your MTL is a stable coin that you created yourselves on Stellar Lumen's network blockchain.
That's right.
Which is backed one for one with actual cash.
Yes.
Which I've just paid for some things with using Telegram, which is a whole new way of transacting for me. So I spent the euros on the Stellar Lumens blockchain as a stable euro, but I gave some cash to go into the reserves.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, interestingly, because my first question to that was, why didn't you use Bitcoin? And you're quite rightly, you said it's too volatile.
Exactly.
I mean,
like it's so it's so tiny, these little shares. Like, you don't want to pay for a cup of coffee with your Satoshi, would you? I mean, like,
well, no, I would.
Oh.
I mean, I did on the Lightning Network, yeah. But I do understand, because I think, like I say, a lot of people who are deep into Bitcoin, whenever they hear about, projects on other blockchains, the answer is always, what, you don't need another blockchain, you don't need this, But I've run into this constantly throughout the world. In El Salvador, it's the same. You pay with Bitcoin, but the person receiving is probably converting it to a US dollar stablecoin, because you can't run a business when Bitcoin's as volatile as this. Obviously, we expect the volatility to dissipate in the future as you go into the future. But I understand why you decided to create your own stablecoin, which is also quite an interesting concept, which I talked about with you in the car just now. It's like you didn't ask anyone; you just created your own euro stablecoin, and now everyone's using it here. Like in here,
yeah.
And part of the reason is also because euro fees in Montenegro are astonishingly exorbitant, like 10% to get money out of the cash machine and ridiculous things like that.
Yes, because we are outside the SEPA, and like every time you go to the bank, you actually have to be there in person. You have to queue up for an hour or so, and then you get these insane commissions. I can't use my Wise wallet here, etc. So it's just impractical to use the local banking system because it's far behind the times.
Yeah. So you're basically still dealing in euros, but you had to create your own euro stable coin to sort of circumnavigate all the euro nonsense that you get here.
In a way, yes, because the banking system here is so underdeveloped that we have to compensate for this. And what we do is basically we exchange debt warrants, little IOUs. So whenever I send you €5 MTL to your wallet, for example, that means that I guarantee that I can pay you in cash whenever you ask. And this warrant is valid throughout the community. So you actually can later send it on to someone else, etc. Because it is backed by real cash. We've got a chain of a network, I would say, of treasurers in the country, in different towns, and even outside the country. So this is how people actually send money overseas. When we had a huge problem here after the war, when the war started, these bank cards that we had in Russia, they didn't work. So we had to circumnavigate again a way to send money overseas, because there was no way we could actually live in the country, and we couldn't connect our future with it. But that was a problem, because what do you do when you sell your flats, you sell your house? So what next? You can't just bring cash with you, and the Bitcoin is too volatile. So what you do is you find a treasurer who would exchange your money for your MTL, and then you will be able to cash out here.
Is there any reason you didn't use an already made stablecoin? There've been euro stablecoins around for a while. You said one of your founding members or was a developer who knew a lot about Stellar Lumens, the blockchain. Is that right?
Well, I did hear about the euro stablecoin, but it's not much in use.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, most people would rely on the USDT, USDC, that kind of Bitcoin, that kind of coins. But it's inconvenient and impractical because we're in the Eurozone, Montenegro. In Montenegro, you actually use euros, so exchanging your USDT and USDC, that's a lot of work.
So basically, if you're transacting in your own euro stablecoin, and say you want to leave the community, say you've decided it's not for you, whatever euro stablecoin you have, you just cash out to cash with the treasurer or whoever one of the treasurers. That's how it works, right?
Yes, this is one of the ways, but of course, because we are on this Stellar network, you can actually swap your MTL. You can exchange it to Bitcoin. You can exchange it to USDC,
you can sell it on an exchange.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. It's a token on Stellar Lumens, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've got some bots that basically what they do is they buy and sell this automatically.
Yeah.
And they are set up in this way.
And that was the other interesting thing. Instead of using a Stellar Lumens wallet, I used Telegram, like a bot on Telegram to send the, I don't really understand how that works, but it was very simple. It runs on QR codes. You just do it all through Telegram channels. So if I want to send you money, I put your Telegram handle in, creates a QR code, and then pop the value, the euro stablecoin appears on your account, your euro stablecoin account. Yeah, it was all very new for me, but it isn't. It's. I mean, have you noticed whether or not the uptake of that? Are people suspicious of that to begin with? Like, or is it because everyone's using it? You don't even have a thought.
Well, it might seem new at first, but once you get in the system, like it's natural. Like to me, like I've been here for more than a year now, and I use the EuroMTL like every day as if I were using, I don't know, cash. The reason why we actually decided to set up a bot on Telegram is for simplicity. As you said, it's super simple, and you don't need to install anything else. And for those people that are not very, well, not technophobes, but like not advanced when it comes to technology, it's much easier to actually to go to this bot. That was a little experiment of ours, and for small amounts of money, I think it works perfectly well. I use both the Stellar Lobster wallet and my MTL bot.
So the Lobster wallet, which is a Stellar Lumens wallet, is it? Does that mean, like, I'm just trying to get my head around this, because if anyone wants to buy your stable coin, can they? How do they do it? Can they swap in something like the Lobster wallet? Can they swap it?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Sure. So it appears. Right. Okay.
It's one of the tokens that is available. All you need to do is just establish a trust line to the EuroMTL, and this is the first step to our tokenomics. So with EuroMTL, which is the digital currency, technically it doesn't need cash, you can buy shares of MTL, you can buy some personal tokens, you can buy some shares if you want to, you can buy shares of the construction company if you would like to invest in the development, etc., etc.
And one thing that you said in the car, which I thought was funny, when I said, are there any regulatory issues with creating your own stable coin? And you said, we're libertarians.
Yes.
I mean, it's interesting. Doesn't it not? What do you think of, I mean, in the future, do you think that might be an issue? I don't know. I'm assuming that like USDT and, all these big stable coins presumably have so many eyes on them and so much regulation, and you can do this and you can do that. But in a way, you've just created a little network for yourselves, and you're backing it by real assets or real money, even though no one, it's not maybe is it audited? I don't know. Like, I suppose with a small group of people, there's less to trust. But I mean, that's not an issue for you. Do you know, for example, that it's all backed by whatever? How do you know someone's not kind of, I don't know, doing something with the money, like doing something with all the money, and next thing you know, there's no value. It's like a bit like, this is one of the concerns that a lot of people have with the big stable coins, is they don't know whether they're actually just printing money out of thin air or they're actually backing them with things.
Right. Well, about the regulation, let me just take it step by step. As far as I know, in Montenegro, cryptocurrencies are not regulated in any way. And what we do is basically we exchange little IOUs, like little debt warrants, as I said. So to the government, even if they were to spot us, we're just a bunch of crazy people exchanging like digits, and there's nothing to it. Like it's not illegal in Montenegro,
right?
As I know.
Yeah, I mean, but I like the way you described it. It's like we're just exchanging a bunch of digits. You could say that about
the Bitcoin,
everything,
about everything. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I think if they want to make an issue out of it, if the powers that be want to make an issue out of it, they can find a way for sure. But I agree with you there. I think, in a way, it shows the absurdity of trying to regulate something like that, because all you are doing is literally swapping value around between each other, and you're using the euro to peg it against because it makes sense, because the shops around here all accept euros.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as for the audits, I'm one of the auditors of the system.
Okay.
So let's say every 3 months or so, I come over to SOS, I come over to some other treasurers, and I check how much money they have in the system, and then I check their safe. So technically, I with my own eyes, like I look at it, and then I give my reports to the team. Okay. But everything is built on trust, and everything is built on some bots that we've got, because you can't just create your MTEL, these tokens, out of nowhere. You have to have cash for it to be created in the first place. Yeah. If there is no cash, there won't be any URMTEL. So everything is backed by cash. So it's somewhere around, right. And there's always a certain amount of money that is there.
Okay, I have to point out that is a point of attack right there. Say a safe got broken into and stolen, or say someone ran off with money. Obviously, which is one of the I understand why you're doing it, because it works. But there is an attack surface there, and that's the major one. Would you say that's fair? I mean, at the moment, it's not an issue because you probably know everyone and you trust everyone. But and hopefully going forward, it will always be like that. But there is obviously that could potentially be a problem. I'm only saying it because I'm thinking from a decentralized money point of view. If Bitcoin wasn't volatile, and it was sitting there nicely as a store of value and a way of transacting instantly, I would see that as a safer option. But under the current situation, you're doing what you have to do, because you can't put all your money into Bitcoin and spend it without, especially when you're running a big community that has building costs and things like this, because sometimes it goes down 75%. Sometimes it goes up 75%. It doesn't work in the real world. I get that.
Well, this is where we have a distributed network of treasurers that work like, branches of banks. And to answer your question, like, you can ask the same question to your bank. Like, first of all, chances are you won't ever see the real money. in the bank, and you won't know if they actually have any money. If anything, their operations and their activities are much less transparent than ours, because we issue reports. We used to issue reports every week, but then we realized it's a bit like it's time consuming, and we all volunteers. So now it's every month. You can, like, if you have access to the signers, chats, and everything, you can actually check how much money everyone has just by launching the bot. So I could check right now, like, how much money all of our treasurers here in Montenegro have.
Should have,
should have, like, in your MTEL and in cash. So I'd be able to work out, like, how much cash I want, and I can contact some of them, and I can do that. As I said, the fund works as like the central bank technically, because they issue the EUR-MTEL, and the EUR-MTEL is also backed by the assets that is owned by the fund, and that is not just cash, but also the Bitcoin, gold, the land, some other assets, physical assets like equipment, like tractors and cars that we use for the construction purposes. So even if someone got robbed, we would still get that distributed network, and your money wouldn't just go missing.
Not all of it in one go. No.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yes. And we have safety precautions for this, but I'm afraid I can't tell you all about it for security reasons.
Okay.
But I can assure you that we have prepared for this, and if anything, like, we have 4 times more assets in the fund than we have the EUR-MTEL, and it is done for a reason, because we don't want to be in a situation where we end up with just some digits and no real value, that have no real value behind them.
It would be funny if, so you're not making loans on your MTL, you turned into a fractional reserve lender of your. No, I was just imagining how that system may evolve in the future, because when you're a small community, and also, I hate to say it, but these kind of community ideas and sort of, there have been a few that have, I won't mention which ones, but there are ones that succumb to quite scammy practices, if you know what I mean. I'm not saying that happens here at all, but there's a reason, I think, why they do, because the temptation is quite easy to be able to, spend the money badly. Like, how do you, so you've got these 20 people, no, or say I wanted to make a big decision, like we went up to your site today. There are 3 buildings there currently in the process of being built. So how did you decide? These are all kind of, well, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the buildings is like a kind of office scenario for the fund, is it, or for the for the
I
community?
think the administration that's going to work inside the community.
One of them which is being built is a place for businesses. The other one has got apartments.
Yes.
And then there's the kind of crazy eco dome at the top, which is going to be like an Airbnb or whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes,
okay.
Glamping thing.
So who decided that? Like, how did the consensus arise about we're going to do this?
Well, we have a bunch of chats, and I hate to say this because, like, there are so many, and I have to read them all.
Like Telegram
Telegram chats, basically,
right, yeah.
for those 20 signers. Is it signers or signees?
Signatories, I would say.
Yes, 20 signatories who will decide what to invest in. We also have offline meetings for those of us who are here, who are part of the community, because it's much easier to actually talk about things. this is how we invested in a new DeFi project. You can see DeFi in our report. So
what's that? DeFi?
DeFi.
What's that? What is it?
I believe that's that's one of the cryptocurrency projects. Again, I'm not
DeFi.
DeFi.
Yes. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. DeFi.
Let me say that again. Okay.
DeFi. Do you call it DeFi?
Yes, because it's easier to say this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I would call that DeFi.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. Like I read it and it just went out of my head. Exactly. But like I understand that this project works. It gives us some revenue. Again, we're not talking about like crazy numbers like 50%, 100% income, right? If anything, it could be like 5% or something like this. That would be enough to actually to support the organization of the system.
I can't remember how did we get onto DeFi from here?
Okay, let me start again. So we've got these 20 signatories that chat basically all the time, right? And some people have initiatives.
These are the people who are. How do you become a signatory?
There's only one way you can get as many as many MTL tokens as you want.
So you need a big enough stake
exactly
in the fund to be able to, like a DAO. Is that right? Do you know what a DAO is?
DA. Oh yes.
You have a bunch of people, and as long as you have a big enough stake in the network, you get to make a decision. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
But yours isn't online. Yours is literally in real life. You know how much. It's not automated. Is what I mean. You know who the signatures are because you know how much of a stake in the fund they have. Therefore, they're on the Telegram group, and they get to say yes or no. Right. Okay.
Yeah, in a way, yes. And a year ago, for example, the access to the top 20 signatories was quite low. You could probably buy 500 MTLs to be able to get access to all the systems. As you can see, we're very transparent. What if this were a scam? Then you would probably lose 1,000 euros.
I've got another question before we go on. Hold a minute. The MTL token, which is the one that the fund is like the shares in the fund, basically.
Right.
Has that got is there a fixed supply on that? Is there, how many tokens are there? Are they a token on Stellar Lumen's blockchain again?
Yes, that's right.
And have they got a fixed supply?
They don't have a fixed supply. And the reason for this is that, for example, you bought land and you bought some equipment, which is what the fund did. Then you hired some people to add some infrastructure, to start building houses and everything, because as I said, the fund owns some land, and they want to use it for commercial purposes. So obviously, the value goes up. The value of the land goes up. So you don't have the same. If you had a fixed number of tokens, like the price of each token would go sky high, and that would be unreasonable, I think. And also, we would want to more people to get access to the system, because there are more initiatives and people have their own ideas. People have their own projects, like the DeFi. Is it DeFi?
DeFi.
Like the DeFi thing that we mentioned earlier, or like this new business idea for a burger place, or for that car rental business. And the fund might want to invest in these things. So obviously, in order to do this, they might need to create new tokens to own these new assets.
I'm confused again.
Okay.
Are the MTL tokens are they backed one for one with something or not? Like, for example, what I'm trying to get at is, when I think of a token like that with no fixed supply, it makes me think that if I'm the fund, I can just print a bunch of tokens and add value to myself. If you see,
but that's not what you do. Again, there are 20 signatories, and they will decide what to spend the money on. We have some cash, but for example, if we want to invest in something new, or if people might want to buy some new, some more MTL, then they would have to invest in Euro MTL. So they would have to buy the Euro MTL with real cash. So we know the cash is in the system. So this is only in this occasion, only in this case, will we issue new MTL tokens. So we know it is backed by the real assets.
Hold a minute. MTL tokens is different to this stablecoin.
Exactly.
But I'm confused. I'm really confused
Okay.
now. Let me try this.
Maybe
I've got 50 euros in
right.
a 50 euro note.
Okay.
Right? And I want to kind of be part of. I want to say land was being sold off, and I could get a section of land for, let's call it 1,000 euros. Let's make it easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of land for sale that's 1,000 euros.
Okay.
So I convert this 1,000 into the stablecoin, the euro
Right.
stablecoin. So
Exactly.
I've got 1,000 euros in my stablecoin,
Right.
and that's the only way I can interact with this.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, it's the first step.
But why did you need the MTL token then? Why didn't you just buy the land with the euro stablecoin?
No, you can't buy land with the MTL. MTL is, as you said, the shares of the fund. So the fund,
sorry, yeah, but you know what I mean. It's almost like the fund. Part of the fund is there's a part of the fund which is the land,
mm-hmm.
and if you divide it up,
Mm-hmm.
it's got value.
Right.
Right. Okay. I think I might be getting it a little bit.
Right.
I'm wondering why you needed the fund. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go on.
Right. You have several options. Now, you exchanged your 1,000 euros for the EuroMTL token, EuroMTL stablecoin.
Right.
Now, from there, you have several options. You can invest your money in MTL, and you will get some dividends every month.
MTL meaning the whole community, as in the
yes,
fund.
Yes, exactly.
Not the fund.
The fund.
The fund.
MTL tokens are shares of the fund.
Right.
So basically, by owning the tokens, you own part of the fund, and you own like parts of everything that it owns.
Right, but that's the bit I don't get. Right, because why isn't that fixed? Like, why isn't the fund a fixed amount?
Right. We are not talking about this unlimited supply. I mean, potentially it is unlimited, but again, you would have to go over these strict procedures. This decision has to be approved by people in the top 20, as I said, top 20 signatories, and the where was I? Because you make me look at the system from the outside as an outsider, and I realize that it might be a bit confusing.
It is. No, well, I like to get things straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm asking all these questions is because I want to tell other people about this, obviously, because I think what's happening is quite exciting. I'm looking around and I'm seeing all the hallmarks of a really exciting project that's actually happening. That's really, so I want to be sure, and I can't say, oh yeah, they just do this. I need to have it straight in my mind, and I'll be honest, I don't have the sharpest mind, but I do get very confused when people start talking about tokens and this and that and blah blah blah. Like I deal in the Bitcoin world. Bitcoin's simple for me.
Right.
It's a me to you transaction. It's a fixed supply. I know that if I own a bit of the supply, I've got an amount of the supply, not taking into account the small. I mean the final fixed supply, the 21 million. And that's something I can easily get my head around. That's value transfer. What you're talking about is kind of slightly different, and I want to get it straight in my head, because one of the parts of the current financial system that I feel uneasy about is the unlimited supply on the money. That's what I mean. So when I see something like that and it says, yeah, the supply it's like, well, I look at it, I'm like, Jesus, I don't know what that means, but that looks worrying.
Right. What we are talking about and what we are failing to see is that the Bitcoin works slightly differently. They have a limited amount of Bitcoins, which backs the value of the Bitcoin. So basically, it's a system that is based on itself, on its
intrinsic value.
The intrinsic value, exactly. What we have is real assets. Again, we have land, we have apartment buildings, etc., and we have some businesses that we are investing in. And yes, you can probably call it like DAO. What you said earlier, right? DAO.
DAO, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know much about them, but I know the concept. It's
right. Because basically, by owning the MTL token, you also own a bit of cash. You also own a bit of land. You also own a bit of flats that are going to be built. That are currently being built. The Bitcoin, etc. So this is your safe bet. And the fund has some revenue of its operation, and a lot of people would like to invest in the MTL token to
be a part of that.
Not only be a part of that, but also get something out of it.
Like
so basically, dividends, like we have monthly dividends, like every month I have my dividends. And this is why some people would like to buy the MTL token. Now, when the project just started, the price of the MTL token was equal to your MTL. So one to one. Right. Then, because the fund invested in some development projects or the Bitcoin, etc., and other businesses, local businesses, the price of each MTL went up to 2 your MTLs per 1 MTL.
And how is that? How is the value of MTL brokered? Like where's the buying and selling of MTL, the fund, happening? So that the price of the token goes up and down because there's a market, right? More people want it than are selling it, let's say. So where does that happen? How do you, is there like an exchange where you buy MTL fund tokens?
Well, yes, it's available on the Stellar network, as I said.
So
you can see, like, basically, it's a free market, and the market is established by demand and supply and demand. Now it's we've got this book value of each MTL token, which can be seen in our reports, and the book value is determined by the assets that we have and how much they cost.
Sorry, the book value.
Yes.
But not the real value. The real value is the free market value.
No, it's right. The real value is a little bit different. Okay, let me start again.
This is why I Bitcoin, because it's much simpler.
Right. Let me explain.
I'm terrible with all this stuff.
No, it's just that you're trying to get all of it in one go, and it took me like a while to actually get used to the idea. So to me, it comes natural. All right, the book value is.
Can I just ask another quick question?
Sure.
Sorry, because I'm thinking like about. I'm getting all this. So what's the fund token? What's it actually called? Is it called
MTL?
Right, it's called MTL, right?
Mm-hmm.
MTL. Can I go onto an exchange somewhere and buy MTL?
Absolutely.
Yeah, anyone can. It's
sure.
Right. It's okay, right.
It's a free market.
Yeah, so it exists on. It's not on like Binance or anything like that, is it? You know, like the famous exchanges, the big ones. You know.
No, because we're on Stellar network, and you can buy
but you can
XLMs, and you can buy the MTL for the XLMs.
You still,
XLMs
I mean, you get
directly.
you get a lot of Ethereum tokens, for example, on exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the ERC20 tokens, they're called.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of them. I just wondered whether if you wanted to go buy MTL, Which exchange do you go to, or do you have to use a particular wallet, or how do you get hold of MTL?
Well, you can just use that bot that you have on Telegram,
for
example.
Right.
So if you have some Euro MTL, you can buy MTL for your Euro MTLs.
Right. Can you buy it with Stellar, the token?
Yeah, the XLM. Yeah, absolutely.
XLM. You don't have to buy the... Okay, right.
Well, technically what it does is like it looks like you're buying the MTL tokens for your XLMs. What it does is like it does two transactions, XLM to your MTL and your MTL to MTL. I think we have bots working in this way. And the same goes for USDC, for example. Yeah, you can probably make it happen as if there's no intermediary. Now, back to the book value.
Book value. Okay, right.
The fund.
Can you explain what book value is? Why do you call it book value?
The book value is the price, the sort of primary price that the fund offers to buy the new Euro MTL or new MTLs for. So, for example, if you were to buy a lot of MTLs, you can contact the fund directly and express your desire to buy at least 1,000 MTLs. Then you would get the book value, which means
OTC.
They would...
That's like an OTC thing, over the counter, right?
It's when they give you a good enough price for you for your 1,000 MTLs. Plus some of the extra money that they would like to get for the transaction. So technically, the fund is interested in also gaining some profit out of it. So they will sell you these MTLs for your assets again, and this is how you get a better price, probably. Or alternatively, have less than 1,000. If you want less than 1,000 MTLs, you can actually go to Stellar Network and you can buy some MTLs that are available online. But we cannot guarantee the actual value.
I got another question already. Sorry.
We should probably do another interview where I start to understand the system from the outsider's point of view and sort of get things straight from the start.
I know. I think
we'll see about that.
Unfortunately, I'm being a bit chaotic in my questions. It's not helping your cause at all. I just realised something. I was thinking, okay, so yeah, I don't know. For me, you see, the thing that I keep thinking, there's red flags keep popping up because I keep thinking, if someone's issuing these MTL tokens, like you just said, I want to come and buy 1,000 MTL tokens, right? And I can go straight to you or straight to the fund and get them.
Mm-hmm.
How is that backed? It becomes backed by my euros.
Exactly, which is going to be invested in more projects, and this is how you get more. This is how the value of the MTL increases.
Okay.
So this is why it's not like it's not a closed system with just a limited number of MTLs, because we want more people to join and to be able to get something. But technically, again, it's not something that you have to do. You can just you can be fine with just using the Euro MTL or not using the Euro MTL at all if you're a Bitcoin maximalist. Like, a lot of people are very suspicious of all kinds of altcoins because they think they're scam, and this is true 99% of the time. But because there's nothing behind it, but you can see what is behind it. There's a legal entity called Montelibero here. There's real value behind MTL. And everything is super transparent on the Stellar. So you can see everything on blockchain ever since it started.
Yeah, I believe that. Mm-hmm. I think the stance of a Bitcoiner would be, it's possible to pull the rug, and but then again, it's not important. I'm more interested in working out how the thing is working, how the cogs are turning,
right?
And because I don't think a lot about tokens like this, I do need to get it straight in my mind, especially when when I'm being told I need to buy a token. I think that's what it is. Like when someone says, you need to buy my token, I always get a little bit, or like, I always do get a little bit suspicious. I'm like, why?
No, that's exactly what I said. Like you don't have to buy any tokens and still be part of the Montelibero movement. It's just that if you want to invest in the project, if you have enough trust in the project, because basically, we've got blockchain and everything, but it's all built on trust and the real value, the real assets that you can see here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's a trusted network. And in a way, it's difficult to tie the blockchain assets or the blockchain transactions to the real life assets. You can make the connection, but you can never really anchor them together because, they're not. The blockchain side of it is just like a carbon copy of what's happening in the real world. But there's no real. You have to trust that they're connected. If you see what I mean.
Money is about trust. USDT and USDT is about trust, right? We don't really see what these tokens are backed by every day. We can't really go to the bank and check.
Sure, yeah, I do. I 100% agree with that. But in a way, with Bitcoin, you can. That's it's an auditable.
Right, and we've got the Bitcoin, and you can see it on Stellar. You can see our tokens wrapped around the Bitcoin, so you can see how much exactly we've got.
Yeah,
and every month we've got reports, and everything can be seen and super transparent. You can actually check that all the operations are there, and we've got the Stellar address of the fund. You can see how much assets it actually owns.
Yeah. Yes, agreed. I once again, what I'm saying is that the way you've come up with your system is a way to best work in the real world with what you want to achieve.
It was a bit of an ad hoc thing, yes, because whenever we saw a new need. For example, like something that we needed to buy. Like I don't think we had the MTL City token right away because there was no land at first. There was no EuroMTL at first. But then we thought it might be a good idea to actually have something that would be able to make it easier to facilitate all the transactions between the members of the community, and so we created it, and it was the decision of the top 20 signatories, etc. I realized that it might sound and look a bit chaotic, but what do you expect of the decentralized system? You don't have to, again, own anything. It's up to you if you trust the system or not, but you can see that it's backed by real value.
Something has just occurred to me then. Say I buy a plot of land, like you said, you've got 2 plots that you're planning on building on. What is the guarantee that that's your plot of land then, for example?
Okay, as I said earlier, we had our MTL City tokens, and I had exactly the right number of tokens to be able to buy these plots of land.
Right. Oh, that's it. So the NFT proves it.
And then it was the MTL City was exchanged for NFT because we thought, how do we prove that this is my plot of land? Because these are just some random tokens, right? Can I claim any plot at all? Of course, we have a map with all the planning and everything where we can see the names or at least nicknames of those people who own the land, but that's not enough because it's just a picture. So we created NFTs that show the exact number of land.
Okay. And okay, so next question is...
Oh, sorry, just before you go on, you can, if you want, you can still buy out your land. There's no... there's like nobody minds it. If anything, the fund would thank you for it because for now everything is on the balance of the fund, so they have to technically pay taxes and everything and do all the maintenance. But for example, Sauce that we've talked with today, he bought his plot of land. So actually, what he needed is he needed to sign one document legal document here that proves that this land is actually his. You can't own the land, for example, if you're a physical entity, but you can own the land as a company, and he has a legal entity here on his name where he is the director. So he owns this land physically, and now he has to pay the taxes and everything. Right. And anyone can do that. It's just that, well, at the moment I find it impractical, because I think I would rather build a house and then buy it, well, sort of technically buy it, because I've already paid for the land. I don't have to pay for the land to the fund because I have the NFT.
So right, okay. So if you purchase, you've already purchased the land in the MTL ecosystem, but if you want to actually get it in the eyes of the government of Montenegro, that's possible as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Yeah, and
you can do that, and Charles is living proof.
Yeah, and you're actively trying to do that as well.
At the moment, like I don't feel the need to do that.
Generally, people, like they're encouraged that.
Yeah, so like if you buy your NFT, like if I sold you my NFT, you as resident of you're not a resident of the European Union, not anymore, I say.
No.
Okay. Well, we'll need to check the legal papers and everything.
So you're using your NFT as a deed.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, you know what a deed is, yeah. So you've got NFT deeds. It's all very 21st century. So yeah, okay, you've got this parallel system. You've got the MTL system that's running inside the Montenegro system, and there's not a lot of, doesn't appear to be there's much communication between the two.
No, well, we are legally present there, and as a construction company, what we do is basically build.
Yeah.
But we try to stay low, like under the radars, not because you have to know a lot about the bureaucracy in Montenegro. There's a lot of corruption. There are lots of shady deals and everything, and in a way, I kind of trust this system, which is super transparent, which is on blockchain, which is in NFTs and everything. Then I trust whatever they give me here, and it takes much more time and it takes much more money to actually do it the legal way, so to speak.
But I mean, the site as a whole, so that the whole MTL site, Montelibero, the whole Montelibero site is owned by the fund. So that's right, isn't it? Unless like Soz, you've bought out a little bit. Yeah. So that there's obviously, like any project like this, there could be corruption between the government and the fund, and there's not much you can do about it. But you say you'd rather work with the fund than work directly with the government.
Well, yes, it's like I'd like to be covered because they've got the accountants, they've got legal help, legal assistant of some sort, as I know.
Yeah.
So I'd rather trust these guys because it's also in their interest to actually keep this land and make sure that nobody really intervenes or interrupts the construction.
Have you thought long into the future? I mean, does anyone have, like, do you talk about the long-term goal of this? Is it to be fully independent, or is that even possible?
I envy the Free State Project and what the amount of liberty they have, or what they do in Prospera. Realistically, I don't think it would be possible to become completely independent in Montenegro. We will still be part of the system, but we will try to run our operations like parallelly as much as possible, while still, performing our obligations to the government. It's just that...
Well, I mean, Prospera does that. Prospera is still under the jurisdiction of the Honduran government. It's just that they get legislation control, regulatory control, mainly on businesses.
Right.
So,
but they also have some preferences. Like they also have lower taxes, as I know. Like we don't get any of this, unfortunately.
Yeah. you're right. They pay a little bit to the government, but it allows them to give their occupants or their people less tax. Yes.
Well, the situation in the world is very unstable. As much as I would like to go to the government of Montenegro and say, look, we have this fantastic project. It's a libertarian movement that hopefully will help your country prosper. Right? We're not allowed to make any legal decisions. We're not allowed to actually participate in the political activity of any sort in the country. And like you have to sign that you agree not to do this.
Yeah.
So we do not interfere in the politics. But if this were to happen, like if someone was interested to make Montenegro a better place, an economically thriving country, they could talk with us. And of course, we would be more than happy if we were given some more privileges, like in terms of lower taxes, to be able to create more businesses here. And it would help the locals as well, because the locals are also like in it already. We're already helping the locals. We're already buying from the locals, etc. And we would like to be friends with everyone here.
What is your What's the government like here? Which way do they lean? What are they? Is it very corrupt? Is it
live and let live? Live and let live, I would say.
Really?
In a way, yes, as long as, because people have been like this for generations. What we like about Montenegro is that you can do whatever you want in your land. There are laws, but then it's a whole different story, right? Historically, this country, it's complicated. I think what's helping this kind of autonomy of the citizens of the country is gun ownership, because it's one of the heavily armed European countries.
Is that right?
Exactly.
That's interesting. So
I don't think.
So.
Yes.
Gun laws here are what, similar to America, or?
You can own a gun. You can own as many guns as you want. I think, if you, provided that you have a legal status here, provided that you're here on legal grounds. Some of the people who are here who would like to own guns, like who are part of a community, are already asking about the possibility of perhaps acquiring a gun legally here. As far as I know, nobody owns a gun at the moment. But yeah, it's possible. And what's interesting about this is that half the guns that the citizens of the country own are legal, but we don't know how many are illegal. But statistically, like every other person in the country owns at least one gun. So you don't want to mess with this, with this population.
Yeah. Wow. So the government are a bit of a live and let live. What officially? What are they? What right or left or centrist or what?
We've recently had elections, and they've elected this new president who is pro-EU. But he was also backed by another candidate that was pro-Serbian. So I don't know how he's going to sit on these two chairs. I don't envy him, honestly. But the good news is that this political system actually works, and the person who used to be president, Jukanovic, and he was in post, what do you call it? And he was in the office for like 20-something years. Now has been replaced by someone new, which is probably a good thing. But we don't know where the country is going to head, because they want to be friends with the European Union, and they want the close integration with the European Union. Yeah. But they also want to be friends with Serbia. And a lot of people were excited on the night of the elections when they actually announced the results. I think it was on the 2nd or the 4th of April. I saw lots of cars with people really celebrating and waving Serbian flags.
So what was the original draw for a lot of you were telling me earlier, I think, that prior to the war with Ukraine, Russians used to come here a lot anyway on holiday. Is that right?
Well, yes.
Yeah. So is that the connection? Like the Montelibero guys came here before Russia and Ukraine were fighting. Yeah. That's just made it harder to get in and out of here for you. Is that right?
In a way,
more expensive.
You can. It's more expensive. It's just that there are no direct flights, but it's fine. We got used to it. You can still find ways. You can go to Serbia, and from Serbia you can actually have a direct flight. I think it's just that it's going to cost you more. But the reason behind our choice of country was, I mentioned it in some of the podcasts I shared with you, is that it's not the most densely populated country with the population of only 600,000 people, or even less than that. The government is rather weak because it has no real direct influence on the people, because people will just live under any government as long as they're not
encroached upon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's no titular nation. What
does that mean?
Okay, so in the UK, you would probably get lots of British people living, right? Like English, Welsh, Irish, etc. Well, mostly the bulk of people, the biggest part would be the British.
Yeah.
Here, there is no such thing as the predominant nationality.
Right, okay.
We've got Montenegrins, we've got Serbians, we've got Croatians.
Russians?
Yes, some Russians, but not to that extent. I mean, I'm talking about the citizens, people who have already become citizens. And it's very difficult to actually become one, by the way. And we've got some Serbians, etc., people who are Albanians. So we've got a bunch of nationalities, and we're just some of these nationalities. And it wouldn't look as if we are trying to steal their country from them, right? We're just one of the many nationalities that live side by side with them.
Well, that brings me on to a good question then. If citizenship is hard to get, how do you live in Montelibero as a non-citizen of Montenegro?
There are several ways you can do that. You can establish a company, which is the easiest way still, even after the war and everything. And you can get your residence permit for 1 year, which you would have to renew every year. And after that, after 5 years, you get your permanent residence permit. After 5 years, you can still get the citizenship, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next week, and I can't really see what's going to happen in 10 years. But this is as much as you can get, most probably, because chances of you getting the citizenship, as I've heard, are pretty low. But we really wanted, and it's still one of our ambitions, to get the locals to see the positive changes that we're making to the community, and because it's much easier to actually do this on a smaller scale in Montenegro compared to, I don't know, Argentina, for example. Because there are so many people, and we would be just a fraction of a fraction, whatever. And hopefully the locals will also be involved and will start using the EURMTEL. They will also would like to invest and would like to do business with us, because it's easier, because it's faster, because it's cheaper, right, than what the government has to offer or what the banks have to offer. And hopefully this will get them to think in a more libertarian way.
It sounds like some of your neighbours have been thinking in quite a libertarian way, because you mentioned that you couldn't commandeer as much land as you wanted to originally, and now obviously the price of the land around you has gone up sharply once ever the free market notices what's going on. So.
Yeah, but again, what you need to understand is it doesn't boil down solely to the MTL city, because it's just one side project of the MTL fund and of the Montelibero movement.
Oh, come on then. Just Are there other physical manifestations of it, or are you talking about like?
Well, we're talking about being physically present in a country, right? You can just be living outside Dobra Voda, where we were.
Bar is the name of the place, by the way, not a bar.
Yes,
Bar's where we are.
Exactly.
Now, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just called bar. Okay.
Yeah. And the reason why we chose this is because it's got a port, it's got a rail road, and it's easier to actually get access to other countries such as Albania, which is like a couple of hours drive from here, even less than that. It's good for businesses, right? So we actually had this in mind. So if bigger investors came to live, to stay, and to invest in Montelibero as a movement, they would be able to benefit from this.
Right. Okay. Right. So we know how to buy land. Oh, so is there land available within Montelibero city, as you call it now?
Not in the primary market, secondary market. I think maybe somebody might be willing to sell you their land,
but it's all been bought up.
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
And what's the timeline of? If you wanted to build your house now, can you go ahead and do it straight away?
Yes, with some exceptions. The thing is, okay, the main problem is the laws of the country. Again, this is why we try to avoid this as much as possible. Not because we're doing something illegal. Far from it. We actually want to bring positive changes to the country, but it seems that the country might not be interested in these positive changes in the first place. The main problem is there are laws in the country that are kind of lagging behind what's happening. Because of this, most of the houses that you will see here don't have house numbers. That is because they are illegal, even though like people have been living there for generations. It's a relatively new country. It was established in 2006, right?
What was it before?
It was part of Yugoslavia, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So they got their independence from Serbia in 2006. So a lot of people wanted to own their land, own houses, etc. And there's a long, long queue of those people who would like to do it. So what the government does is like what the government did was say, okay, you can live on your land, but as long as you at some point in the future, because there's not enough we don't have enough people to actually to do all the paperwork for you. You can still live as long as you have like the legal ground to be here as well. So we've got all the I don't know what they're called. They are on the registers, right? But they are not registered as private houses, right? Or that you can build on. And there's going to be a new law that I've been hearing about. I've talked with some people in the industry. I've talked with some architects. I've talked with some developers that say they're expecting a new law that is going to facilitate the process. That is going to make it much easier. But as I've heard, it might not be possible to actually to start building without that law that is going to come into force. So I'd rather wait for this. But realistically, you just have the same rights as other people because the locals, like 70% of all houses that you see are sort of illegal.
But when a local builds a house, do they apply for some kind of planning permission or not even that?
They are supposed to, but I can see that it's been a bit chaotic, and this is something that you need to realize about the Balkan states, right? Because people have their needs. For example, they built their house back in, I don't know, the 90s. Then their child grew, and they now, for example, he or she got married, and they are going to live with them, for example, as a family, the joint family. Why not? So they're going to build another floor on top of their house, which is why you will see, sometimes you will see some bizarre buildings right here.
I noticed a lot of the little iron bars sticking out the tops of buildings.
Yeah, just in case. Yeah, like what if?
Yeah, but I've heard, like in India, I know that basically when you get planning permission for a place, if you never finish it, then you can add on at a later date. If you see what I mean, do you see what I mean? Like
right.
if you put a roof on something,
then it's done.
That's it, closed.
Okay.
But if you leave those little things sticking out, it's proof that you're still building.
Okay.
So I think that I used to hear that a lot in India, because you see that. I've traveled a lot there and you see it, and it was always like, oh, we've done that because we want to leave the possibility to continue building and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we stopped at a place on the way here. Do you remember? Up in the mountains.
Yes.
They had the same thing there. I wondered whether that was a similar strategy.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not the right person to ask about the legal like the legislature of the country, because there are other people who are working on it, like who have consultants, like local realtors, estate agents, I would say, etc., working with them closely, especially the construction company that is building houses for us. They have it all covered. And I honestly don't want to know how, because it's a mess. The architect said, like, okay, they will change the projects all the time. They will change plans all the time, etc. We need one law, and we're expecting this anytime soon.
But there are rules to say you can't build a 20-story building, things like that. In my experience of planning, because I built my own house, well, built a house next to my own house, and on the whole, as long as you don't annoy your neighbours, nothing, it doesn't matter. That's kind of the rule. Like if someone complains about what you're doing, it becomes something.
Exactly.
If they don't complain, then it doesn't. Who cares? Yeah. And even in the UK, that's kind of the same. Like if you we have very strict planning permission rules in the UK, but they become much stricter if someone complains.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why you need to be friends with your neighbors, and this is why I trust the construction company, Dmitry, who is the director of the company, because he hires some of the people. They hire, like they help him, and he helps them. And this is a way of establishing the local connections, these ties I've been talking about.
They're all libertarians as well, isn't that right?
The neighbors?
No, the construction company.
The
builders.
I don't think all the builders are, but there are a few, like 4, maybe 5 of them that are part of our community, right? And but basically, you can just hire anyone, and you can pay them to do the job.
What is the feeling of the neighbours then? Like what do they make of you lot doing what you're doing? The neighbours around the land.
I think they are quite happy to see the positive changes, because again, the price of their land, the price of their houses has gone up, obviously, because of the infrastructure. I don't know how these people have been living without any infrastructure, without a proper road. There was nothing.
You put that road in.
Yes, exactly. This is one of the things that we're proud of. We built a road under ANCAP.
Oh yeah,
it's one of these.
Who's going to build the
exactly?
roads?
Yes, we are going to build the roads.
At last, I've got it.
Yes. This is the living proof that the system works. We libertarians are responsible for our own land. And oh my God, we have such heated debates about what's going to happen next and who's going to be responsible for what. And we've got our city manager, even though there's no city per se as of yet, we already have someone who's going to be responsible for this, and we're going to re-elect them every year or so. So it's a whole big experiment. So this is part of the reason why I can't really give you a lot of these definite answers, because I don't know what's going to happen. But this is why it's exciting, because no one has done it before, at least not in the same way. And I would like to be part of this. This is why I'm here.
No, I'm excited looking at it, I must admit. Not least for the fact that I saw a lot of construction happening in a beautiful location, in a hot country. Well, currently it's not that hot, but I imagine the summers here are absolutely spectacular, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that excites me, because I love the idea of living in places like this. Unfortunately, I have a whole family. I have 3 young children a wife, and I can't just up sticks and move to a place like this. Believe me, I've tried to convince them, but it takes a lot more to uplift, to remove your whole family. But
yeah, no. This is why some of the residents here are separated from their family temporarily, because they actually like the project and like what we are doing. They are willing to relocate, but their families are a little bit reluctant to change anything, and they would be happily living in Russia for some reason, or even in Ukraine or Belarus. Or in their countries where they settle down, rather than do something, because people are a bit like that, it's difficult.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't blame them. I think also, like, there's a difference between men and women for sure, and especially when you bring children into the equation. Men are much more likely to go off and start somewhere new. Women are far more homely, especially if their mothers close. They like being near their mothers, especially when they've got kids. You know what I mean? It's all, and Yeah, I
guess you're right, but it really depends on the person, because the next interviewee you're gonna have here, Tatiana, actually was the initiator, right, of relocation, and now she brought her husband with her. Right, so they moved from Britain, even though he's Irish and she's originally from Russia. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. But I think in general that what I said is true. That's been my experience anyway.
Yes.
In general,
yes.
I think and you can easily have a partner like Tatiana who will be one of those people. But unfortunately, I don't have that. But I would love to, and I said I was excited walking around that site, because I was thinking, wow, this is an opportunity to try something, and I would love to. I love construction as well. I really enjoy building things, and you're lucky in many ways. Have you thought about your own particular style of house, or what are you?
Yes, this is something that we've been discussing within our community and in some respected groups. We need to adhere to a certain style. Should we do this? Should we not do this? Of course, it would increase the overall value of the whole project.
Yeah, it would. Like building in stone or something instead of concrete. I don't know. Is there a traditional Montenegrin? I mean, I've looked at, from what I've seen, the whole place looks like it was built in the last 30 years.
Yes. So it's hard to say if they have a certain style.
But they must have had stone buildings, like prior to. There's a lot of stone around here, isn't
there? But it's a bit impractical to build, to make houses of stone these days.
True, because, but I mean stone facing them.
Yes, at least, yes.
Yeah. Things to give them like you say.
Feel.
Well, I mean, you make a valid point. If you created a 1 hectare, community of absolutely gorgeous looking buildings, the value would be sky high compared to a mishmash of, the kind of buildings that you see a lot of around here, for sure, 100%, without question, because I think that's what's missing from modern architecture is beauty. Especially, I'm not even talking about postmodern architecture, brutalist art. I mean, just in general, the kind of the handmade beauty, the kind of the appreciation of beauty, seems to be disappearing in favor of convenience and function, which is a shame, because, like in my country, there's a premium on good-looking houses. I live in one. My house is 400 years old. It's made of stone. The walls are a meter thick.
Wow.
And it's probably worth, I mean, I'm going to say, if it was a modern version of itself, it would probably be 25% cheaper. The premium for the old building is high. But what you're really buying is a good-looking building.
Sure.
It's not necessarily, you don't care that it's 400 years old. You kind of do.
Some people do.
You care, but you're caring because it has character. And it doesn't look like a red brick building with a flat, So there could be, there would be a huge incentive to make it look beautiful as well,
And again, this is why we have these heated debates before we actually started building anything individually, right? But if anything, I can almost guarantee you that there are going to be certain decorative elements, like the facades are going to look more or less similar to each other, even though we're going to use different brigades, construction companies, development companies.
How do you deal with this, right? And like in my past, before I had a family, I've lived in various shared places, big houses full of us, lots of people living together. And my conclusion after experimenting with those kind of communities was it's much better if somebody owns the building and everyone who lives in it follows the rules, rather than have like a co-owned building, like a commune, and then 10 people always trying to make one decision and no decisions get made. So what? Presumably you have to deal with that problem.
Yes, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But
I mean, even in your decisions, like a lot of things might be off the table even before something you really care strongly about. Like, say you want a beautiful village, and half the people say not bothered. So how do you deal with that? I think it is it's pros and cons, but the problem is that, like, for example, with your decision-making process, how many people does it take to veto something out of your 20 signatories, for example?
I should say that what you're talking about is the MTL fund again, and what we are dealing with is the MTL city, and it's one of the side projects, and there are separate chats for those people who actually bought land, because there are, I don't know, several thousand people who own some MTLs, but only 20-something families that are going to build houses in the
right. So the families are all in a chat.
Exactly.
And you can bring up anything. You could say, look, I want all the
technically,
all the
that's already
the
top 20. There you go. Yes, and I've already heard some debates on what's going to be, what it should be.
How are you going to decide, though? Take the city. Yeah, but there's nothing. No, did people sign something? Say you come up with a plan to say everyone has to stone face their building, right? And you get agreement on that, right? But obviously that's more expensive than building another kind of building. So how do you enforce that if it were to, if that became a rule?
There is no enforcement. I don't think there's going to be any enforcement. We are libertarians. We can do whatever they want. However, we are also driven by some profits that could be made, because what if you decide to rent out some of the rooms, or some of the, even if you have a multi-flat building, some of these flats, you would want it to look nice. You would want it to look similar to other houses. So.
Yes, I mean, you're letting the free market decide, which is it's one of a number of solutions. The other one being everyone signs a contract when they join the community that says you have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this.
Yeah. That's true.
But you're going down the completely anarcho-capitalist, well, kind of, as much as possible, the libertarian route. It's like, here's what we suggest everyone does, and we've all agreed on it, but you can't stop someone from the non-aggression principle says you can't stop someone if they decide, you know what, I want a greenhouse and I want to paint the ceiling, I want to paint the roof blue and write I hate libertarianism on the front of my house or something, like.
Well, it's just that why would you want to be part of the community in the first place if you hate libertarianism and if you want a completely different house from the rest of us? I mean, like, just to
well, you might want a different house. You could definitely, but also over time, people change. This is what I mean. Like, things do change. Like, people change, and there's nothing. Like I say, the problem I always discovered from living communally. Was it's very difficult to broker the human relationships especially in the decision-making process. Because what happens is there might be a phenomenal decision that needs making, but the emotions between people cause the decision to be made incorrectly, not based on whether it was a good or bad decision, but based on someone not liking someone else or something like that. And
yeah, I know.
And I theoretically, yes, the free market can fix this problem, but it's theoretical. There's almost certainly going to be all kinds of funny problems that occur, as you could already see maybe in the whole libertarian movement itself.
Well, I would still trust these people to do what they think is right. I know we have similar views in many ways, and I think they're decent people, and they're not going to do anything crazy. And I don't think we're going to just disagree on a certain point, because in many ways, like we have such similar views that maybe people will change. Maybe I will change. I don't know. Then I probably wouldn't be part of this community, and I would just sell my house or my property, whatever it's going to be. But yes, we are talking about drawing up a little contract already, just to adhere to some minimal features, like whatever features that you might want to see here, just for everyone's benefit. So yes, we are talking about this, and it's a work in progress.
Work in progress.
Yes.
I admire your open-mindedness to absolutely anything.
Yeah, I don't have any ready-made answers for you, because I haven't experienced it yet, and this is why it's so exciting. This is why I would like to be part of this community, because I want to do something new with my life. This is why I'm here.
What is your life prior to this or currently?
It was pretty boring. During COVID times, basically what I did was I just sat in front of my computer working.
But you were a translator. Still do that? Is that right?
Yeah. I used to work a bit more. Now I work less, and luckily for us, Montenegro is not the most expensive countries in the world. Like I've been to Switzerland. I've been to Britain. I've lived in Britain, and I can tell you that it's much cheaper. Right, so it is quite affordable, and this is one of the reasons why so many people actually find it a comfortable place to live, even if they are not IT specialists who make loads of money.
You make your money online. You
technically, yes.
Yes. So, and how many of the people who are owners of a parcel of land in MTL City? How many of them are Russians, and how many of them are from other countries?
We've got quite a lot of Russian speakers, but I don't really ask them to show them my their passports.
Right. But you mentioned there was an Indian guy who someone from India. Oh no, that was
Yes,
Soz that told me.
Yes. There's an Indian guy, Ajay. He is also part of the community. Of course, he's more than welcome to live with us. Absolutely. Quite a lot of the people there speak English, so we don't see a problem with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got this. We've got Tatiana, for example, who is. Who comes from Britain, with her husband, who has this British citizenship, and yet, I didn't foresee any problems that we might encounter later on.
If someone's listening to this and they like the sound of it, they can't actually come and live here, can they? Yet, because there's nothing for sale. They can come and be part of the project, I suppose. They can come and live in... You all currently live in apartments around here, don't you?
Yeah.
Because no one's actually living on the site yet. The 3 buildings that are going up are, about 2/3 finished by the looks of it? They're...
Well, one is going to be finished by the end of summer, actually. So.
Right, yeah. But, you can't just phone you guys up and say, hey, what's for sale? There's nothing for sale at the moment.
the fund doesn't offer any land at the moment, but there's secondary market. So if you agree on a particular price and if you like the place, of course, feel free to do that. More than welcome.
Yeah, no,
very open.
Yeah. No. How do you go about that then? How would one go about that if they were interested? Just through your website?
Like website? Why website?
No,
like,
I mean, if someone was interested in buying here, who do they contact?
Well, first of all, they would probably need to say something on Telegram. We've got our groups, English, Russian, now we've got German, I think we've got the French group. So you can just express your desire, and then we will check if anyone is willing to sell their parcel.
Right.
Then we'll just, they will get in touch, and that's it. The deal is done.
Wow. We've covered the decentralized nature of the place. We've covered how it started, have we? You know, the kind of how it operates financially, the governance of it, which is pretty chaotic and decentralized. Would you say? No. Well, in a good way. In like I say, it is. I mean a kind of anarchic way. It is. It is
maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that in the sense that you are trusting in the other individuals to cooperate, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's a work in progress. I mean, when we all do that in our own ways in our daily life, but not in a way in a big project like this. I would imagine in the modern world, people want to get contracts, and you know, they want to get things written and signed for and said, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You know.
No, I think people need more trust. You know, I've always felt that, and I've been looking out for a way for me to actually find and build, you know, these connections between people who can just be people who can decide for themselves, who don't need contracts. Because I've heard of so many, I don't know, like black estate agents, for example, or like who sign contracts or who get you to sign something, and then you get swindled. Yeah, you get tricked all the time with contracts. So contracts and governments are not proof that it's going to work. What you really need, what is really lacking in your life is that level of trust.
Had you visited anywhere else at all resembling this project prior to coming here?
No, not really. It would be very difficult for me to visit New Hampshire or to go to... It's so far away in any case. And why be part of something that's already coming to an end if you can start something from scratch?
How did you hear about it originally then?
I think it was a little article or a post on Telegram from one of the Libertarian channels that I've got that I follow, and they mentioned several projects like free city projects or intentional communities. I don't remember what it was, and they mentioned, okay, there's Prospera, there's New Hampshire, and there's Montelibero. So it's not so far away from me, and I could actually go check it and see if I would like to stay. And that's what I did, and I've been living here ever since. Yeah. So I never went. I never went back to my country.
What's it like here in the summer? Like, is it a big tourist destination?
It is. But what I like about Bar is that it's not on the radar. Like, it's not like one of those most popular places, because you can see it's a little bit more
local,
local. Yeah, I would say so. Like, most people would go to Tiva, to Kotor, or Budva, some other towns on the coast, but like it's still a popular place, but we don't have lots of hotels. Like, what this kind of plays to our benefit, to our advantage, I would say, that it's a little bit underdeveloped yet. And you can see that there's still lots of land like right next to the sea, where like investors would be dying to get them, but they're still empty. And again, part of the reason for this is that the government is very, very slow making decisions, making the right movements, and a lot of hotel chains would actually abandon their attempts to build something here because the bureaucracy is incredible. And this is why there is this gray area. This is why like people build things for themselves in many ways.
Are there beaches, nice beaches down on the coast there? I know we're not too far away. Like it's a 10-minute drive.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the city beach, town beach. There are some more. Like you could probably get from the club and to the town beach 20 minutes time. Like you can walk there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we're talking about MTL City, the beach is actually maybe 2.5 kilometers from there, so maybe a 30-minute walk.
Yeah, but you're up in the hills, aren't you? A little bit where you are.
Yeah, but
nice.
Believe me, it's not.
You can see
it's not too hilly.
You can see the sea. The view from the site is straight down to the beach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice place to live in.
Yeah, I know. It's exciting for me. I'm looking at it feeling young again, thinking, wow, if I was younger and single, and I would be all over a project like this. I think it's just super exciting to feel like you're doing something like this. And, you know, I think one of my dreams was I've been to Bulgaria quite a few times, and I once started making a film in Bulgaria about abandoned villages in the mountains in Bulgaria, because there's a lot of them. You know, as in the youngsters all moved out, especially when they joined the EU. The youngsters went to the EU, and slowly but surely there were fewer and fewer people. And we actually started making a film with about a woman. We never finished it in the end. There was a woman who was living in a village on her own, and it was the rest of it was completely empty. Mm-hmm. But you could buy these villages. Like there were people selling villages for like 150,000 euros and stuff, you know, at that time. Oh. But after that, I did a few trips there, and we went to a few different places, and that was my fantasy. My fantasy was, right, just, you know, buy one of these places and slowly do them up. Yeah. I know, but you're doing a version of it here, although you're building from scratch, which is more admirable, I would say, because in those Bulgarian villages, you're talking about renovating houses that have been there for a few hundred years and stuff. And in fact, one of the places we went was a bunch of Bulgarians who'd made some money in the EU, came back, were buying the houses for 6,000 or 7,000 euros each, and they're turning it into an IT village.
Nice.
One of them, I know, it's really cool how they get satellite internet in there, and you know,
perfect.
Right. Okay. So, but that stuff is exciting because I was that guy when I was in my 20s, you know, traveling around the world, doing things, looking at things like that, having dreams of this, that, and the other, you know.
Actually, initially we were originally called the seasteading project, not the homesteading project. And part of the reason for this is that we actually thought of building our own like floating city in case we don't find land, because like everything is owned by someone. So we thought of actually creating something of our own. So it was even more ambitious back then.
But you know, there is a seasteading institute. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know about that.
Yes, right. Of course, we've heard.
You weren't the same one, though. You had your own. We're going to. They've got prototypes and stuff now. They've got, really? Yeah. They've got real, you know, there are things being built, you know, like these strange long, you know, half under the water, half above the water things. I've not actually interviewed any of them in person yet, but they were at our conference in Prague last year, giving presentations on what's up, and there's actual VC money going into some of these projects now, and you know, prototypes are being built. It's quite astonishing, but I mean,
but it's much more difficult to implement. And I'm thinking, like I'm running the numbers in my head, and I can't imagine that we'll be able to afford this. Right? It's much easier to actually, you know.
Yes, but the premium you pay is on freedom, isn't it?
Of course, yeah. I know.
How much are you willing to pay for freedom? That's the thing. True. But then again, is it? Who knows? Like I say, I'm looking forward to having that conversation, because I think a government is still going to be concerned if there's a big floating citadel off the coast of their country, and obviously you can go further, you can go deep into the sea, but then I would imagine you run the risk of bad weather more than I don't know. Like I say, I've never spoken to them about it, but I will, and I'll find out what the counter arguments to all these things are. When I think we need to go to America to talk to those guys, because a lot of them are out in America. But, okay, so about the history of Montelibero. Can you give me a timeline?
Oh yeah.
And who like I know, because I know it's a decentralized network, but someone obviously had the idea, or some small group of people, and almost certainly there were some pioneers. Can you just give me a little bit about that, about the history of the place?
Right. Well, in December 2020, this Ukrainian family came over to Montenegro, and at first they had no idea what was about to come later. So they just thought it might be a good idea for them to actually start a new life here, And this is, I guess, we are a decentralized network, but we could call the head of the family, one of the founding fathers of the movement, because he's an agorist, he's a libertarian, and his name is Heinrich.
Yes. That sounds very German.
Yeah,
Heinrich.
exactly. He speaks Ukrainian, he speaks Russian, he speaks German, a bit of English, and now Serbian. So
wow, but he is German. Or
no, he's Ukrainian.
Is that a Ukrainian name as well then, Heinrich?
It is. I mean, like it does sound foreign to me, but I think his family has close ties with Germany. This is how he picked up a lot of German when he was a child, I guess.
Okay, so there's Heinrich.
Right.
What's his family name then?
Polyanin.
Polyanin.
Polyan. And then I guess YN again, because there's no way you can.
It's a Ukrainian thing.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it sounds Russian to me. I mean,
okay. So a lot of Russians live in Ukraine, would still call themselves Ukrainian. Well, used to, I suppose. I don't know what's going on now.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. There's a guy called Heinrich with his family.
Yes.
And he's an agorist or a libertarian, and he decides to come looking for a place to start a community in 2020.
I don't think this was his initial idea, but he was on all these forums and all these websites on agorism. One of them was panicky.com or panicky.org. I actually am not quite sure, and I need to check it, but it's this panicky website.
Agorist website. Agorist.
I have no idea, honestly, because
I know a bit about agorism, but we don't need to go into that now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And this is where he met another person, right? His name is Eni. I mean, he goes by the name Eni here.
ENNE.
No, like as in Eni.
Eni.
Yeah, right. Because that's his nickname.
Okay.
Right. It's just that I'm not sure if he would be happy his name to be heard in the podcast. Like, people like their secrecy, people like their privacy, I would say. This sort of gave him an idea, to put their heads together, to join forces and actually start something new, to create some community, a libertarian community. And they thought it might be a good idea for people, like-minded people, to actually come over to Montenegro to start a new life and to make these positive changes. It was only by June, I think, 2021, when they realized that it might actually be even better to buy some land and establish this FSPE, Free City Projects. What was it? FSPE. Right.
I'll read the back of my sweatshirt.
Yeah, but it says First Club. Yes. Free Society Europe. Yes, FSP. Free Society Project Europe.
Free Society Project Europe.
It's so incompetent. It's so unprofessional of me to not know what it stands for. I mean, like, I do know. It's just that it skipped my attention for a second. So yes, and they thought it might be a good idea to actually establish this FSPE project, which stands for the Free Society Project Europe. Because they thought it would be a great idea, not only just for families to settle down in Montenegro, because it's a great country, but also to find a way for them to cooperate and live together. And maybe this is the beginning of something even better, something more beautiful. Because they had heard of New Hampshire and Prosper, etc., and they were inspired by these ideas. So they bought this land, they legalized everything, like all the papers were signed in, I'm going to say, by the end of summer 2021. And this is, but at that time, the community wasn't that big still, right? When I came here and I found out about the community and the project in August 2021, and by October I was already here. But it was basically just a bunch of people, no more than a dozen members living here permanently. I met Heinrich. Annie, unfortunately, is not here yet, but he is coming over later. He did visit Montenegro, but I never actually got to meet him in person. And I thought it's a great idea, and I stayed, even though I was planning to actually to be here for a month or so and just to see how things would work. Because, you know, I work remotely. I don't really have to be in one particular place. I'm not attached to it. So, and then people started to come over, and people had different reasons to be here. Some actually liked the idea. This is when we started to advertise on other platforms, chats, libertarian communities. This is how we came to be known as that community in Montenegro. Some people actually came for the land because they thought it might be a good idea, not only to be part of this community, but also to build something. And that is quite exciting and astonishing.
About building and getting land and stuff. Because I'm kind of like working this out in my head. But would you say that if you were someone who wanted to come to Montenegro to buy land, would you say that doing it in Montelibero would be easier and simpler because you've basically created your own sort of, for want of a better word, real estate system here, the blockchain based one. Mm-hmm. So arguably, I know that you're sort of telling everyone, look, you should register this legally, but actually in the first instance, most people, if not everyone, is using your homegrown digital platform to register their land. So it is easier than someone who said just independently came over here and wanted to buy a bit of land and build a house on it.
It really depends on the people, I guess. For those people who rely heavily on all the bureaucracy, it might not be easier to actually understand what this is about, right?
No, because I mean the actual thing. I mean, registering on your platform. It's quite a simple process.
Yeah,
I imagine that was the whole point of doing it. Yeah, because I was thinking about why you needed, why you didn't create just a website rather than use a blockchain and NFTs, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. I see.
And I was thinking, well, to be honest, you could have just created a website and said, okay, here's a map of the land. Mm-hmm. Here's the bits that you've bought, and keeping a record of it. But you chose to use a blockchain instead, and what's the reason for that, for example? Like, why did you choose to use a blockchain rather than just create a website that shows who owns what, and which would be a similar process?
It is similar. However, I mean, you don't really have any guarantees that this is actually your land. Like, anyone can create a website, and it doesn't really have any value. And we did have these maps for our members, for those future residents who did buy their land from us. And I think we can still find this in our chats on Telegram. But people wanted something else, something better, because we didn't have that opportunity to actually sign the papers or anything like that. Like, how can you have that level of trust with those people who operate on a bigger scale, who actually own this land? And I think this was an opportunity for the fund to maybe to show its credibility.
The only reason I ask is because if you think about it, the connection between the fund and the deeds, for example, is just a blockchain thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they legally own the land. So really, I think it for you is a good way to organize who owns what, but actually, realistically, owning an NFT of the land
means nothing.
Doesn't actually mean anything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, if you are concerned, you can actually be part of the board of directors of the company. So if you have bought quite a lot of land, or, for example, if you own quite a lot of MLTs. Oh my God, what am I saying?
MTLs.
MTLs.
Even I know they're called MTLs.
Yeah, sorry. Like, who am I? An imposter. I'm no one. No, I was thinking of NFTs, and then it just slipped of the tongue. In any case, let's try it again. If you are concerned about the security of this whole system and the word for the safety of your money and your investment, you can join the board of directors of a company, Montelibero, and you will have some legal guarantee, right, that nobody's going to run with this money, run away from this money, and nobody's going to escape the country.
Yeah,
because you're on
it. Well, it's interesting because I do struggle with the idea of blockchains other than Bitcoin, because they're not actually really decentralized. They are kind of decentralized, but they're not really, because they have basically, well, I know the one you're using doesn't have proof of work for starters. So, anyway, we could debate that, but it's not really worth it. That's just what I would do. My observation would be that. However, I can see a reason why it would work in this situation, even though it doesn't actually give you any, any guarantees in life. But it is a good system to sort of organize this thing around, because someone's built the blockchain already. All you have to do is create some tokens on top of it, and blah, blah, but that's so yeah. But I suppose that's the risk you take when you deal in those kind of things, that at the end of the day, it's fallible in that sense. But when you're a community, you're relying on trust anyway, and so you're acknowledging that there's this trust layer that you have to rely on.
Well, yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, and it is backed by blockchain, but not vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Basically, what we do is we use blockchain as a sort of, what do you call these books? Ledgers.
Yeah, a ledger.
Right.
Yeah. You're using it as a way to know yourselves, who owes what to who. But like I say, the connection of that blockchain with the real world, as in the piece of land, it doesn't exist. If you see what I mean. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. Okay. But you're all acknowledging that and going, okay, what have you got a better solution? And interestingly, I bought some merch off you a couple of days ago, and in order to do it correctly, I had to get your stable coin, which is the Euro
MTL.
Yeah, and I didn't have a way of getting any Euro MTL except sending you some Bitcoin, because I only have Bitcoin, and ironically, both the transactions failed. And in the end, I had to actually give someone some real euros. And I know the reason I'm laughing is because it was such an inefficient way to make a payment. It's hilarious, but that's kind of what you have to accept a lot of the time in these kind of situations. But what's interesting was that when I tried to pay someone with Bitcoin and the transaction failed on Lightning Network, the first thing someone says was, "There you go. That's why we don't use Bitcoin." And so I'm just kind of like fighting your corner a little bit there, because I know that I'm always suspicious of blockchains that aren't Bitcoin, because I think actually the only purpose of a blockchain is money, and it has to have a proof of work it has to have a proof of work mechanism as well, which most other blockchains don't anymore, or didn't to begin with. But in your case, like I say, the way I can see it is you kind of acknowledging this and going, it doesn't matter. We're using this blockchain as a way to sort of like keep records and do all this kind of stuff and blah blah blah. And we acknowledge that actually there's no connection between, there's no real world connection between my NFT and my piece of land. No. But for us, there is. That's our way of deciding. And okay.
But again, as I said, if you are worried about like not getting enough proof that this piece of land actually is owned by you, you can always transfer this piece of land legally onto your company, for example, if you establish the company here, and you can own it. So nobody would mind. If anything, the company will thank you. I mean, the fund will thank you for it, because they wouldn't have to maintain it. They wouldn't have to pay taxes for you, etc. It will be on you.
Which just brings me back to my first point, which was that I think what you're doing with your blockchain is just making it much easier to get the land.
Yeah,
because previous to if someone came to Montenegro and wanted to get some land, they would have to go through the legal procedure of setting up a company, blah, 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 and God knows how long it takes in the bureaucracy here, because I'm getting the sense that the bureaucracy is incredibly slow and clunky. But with your method, that work's already been done on the main block of land. You now put a layer on top of that, which is your blockchain, and you're using that to sort of secure, in inverted commas, the rights to the bits of land and stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And what is good about this Stellar network and everything is that we have backup copies, just in case it fails. So we will still be able to sort out, who owns what. So it's just a ledger, nothing more. And I would also need to mention that not only will it be more cumbersome, maybe not the right word, but it will take you more steps to actually get that land, to buy that land on your own, but it will also be much more expensive. Back in the days, in June 2021, or maybe a little bit earlier, like May, when the fund decided to buy the land, they actually bought 1 hectare, and it was much cheaper, than for you to actually go on the website, choose one plot of land and buy it separately. That would cost you much more. So there's also this factor that we need to take into consideration.
So, all right, going back to the timeline of the establishment of this community, 2021. So, and this is also still true. This has been my experience in being here in Bar for a few days and meeting everyone and stuff, is that the Montelibero community currently are a community of people living around here, and that will continue, obviously, not least because you're also building the actual MTL city, Montelibero city. There seems to be quite a few libertarians just coming here now. Is that true? and bar is the place. Is that's kind of like, just because you lot have settled here, it's attracting people to come, as it did originally.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we do here is like we invite people over to MTL breakfasts and MTL lunches, which are held every Wednesday, every Saturday here in Bar. I know there are some private initiatives to sort of not outsource, but to sort of replicate this model in other towns. But so far, if you want really to talk with some of the activists, if you want to have your questions answered, or if you want to actually, see for yourself that this is a real project, that it's not some render pictures, then you should come to Bar, which is what people usually do.
Well, and I can certainly say it's very much a bona fide project. It's got real buildings and real people. And what I like actually about the clubhouse is the community here. It seems very welcoming, very cool. I like the way you cook communally, etc., etc. It seems like you're off to a good start, put it that way, as far as I can tell. I'm someone who's lived in communities a lot when I was younger. Not since I've had a family, fortunately, but I do know the pitfalls of communities, especially in the decision-making process. But there seems to be a really nice vibe here. Children running around, families, adults interacting, working, co-working, everything. And you can easily imagine that if you transferred this up to MTL City and had people living on site as well, it would be an absolutely amazing little hub of activity. Because currently here, at the clubhouse here, this is just one building in isolation, and everyone lives in this town around and about somewhere. But I'm very excited to see the MTL City evolve, because I can imagine this up there, this situation, plus all the other stuff and all the buildings and the land and probably some gardens and some this and that, and it's a phenomenally intriguing prospect, put it that way. I take it that's your vision as well.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. I really appreciate you noticing this. And this is the kind of vibe that I would like to retain, to hold on to, because it does give you this homey feeling, the kind of home away from home sort of thing, because we're all immigrants. We all had to, we chose to leave our countries, and if there's one thing that we are missing in our life, is this sense of community, especially to be surrounded by like-minded people. Because let's be honest, there aren't enough libertarians in the world in the first place. There aren't enough ANCAPs in the world. So this is the place to go if you don't want to explain people again and again why it's wrong to tax people, why it's wrong to for the government to say who you're allowed to sleep with and who you're not allowed to sleep with, or what you want to do with your body, etc. Or why the government sometimes restrict your let me say it again. Why the government restricts your economic activities, etc. Right? This is already the default setting that we all have. That this is the most natural thing, and from there, hopefully, we'll be able to create new businesses, and that's already happening, right? And we are also getting the locals on board with us by attracting them to our tokenomics, to our ideas, and in many ways they can also feel this way, because, as I said, the country, the government, and the people live side by side, but not exactly together. So that's already good material for libertarianism, I think.
Something that just occurred to me. I'm sorry to keep going back to the tokenomics thing.
No.
But you just mentioned that, getting everyone else involved in the tokenomics. And do you ever think about the prospect that that you are kind of at the end of the day at the whim of the Stellar blockchain in a way? for example, if it gets big and you're including people in this and local businesses are using your stablecoin and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, at the end of the day, the Stellar blockchain is a centralized company, isn't it? And who knows what could happen to them? I mean, I know for a fact that, when they started in about 2018, I think I seem to remember, and they went, like most tokens, they had that pump and dump sort of situation. So I don't know what's going on with them, but you're obviously using them. But there is the risk that as a company, they fail, and at that point you've got the problem of anyone you got involved in it might be put off by that system. Is that anything you think about?
Not at the moment. However, we have had talks about switching to a different platform because some of us are Bitcoin maximalists, and they were very reluctant at first to actually switch to this Stellar network. And they suggested using at least Ethereum platform, for all our transactions. But at the moment, it's not practical from the economical point of view, because transactions take more time and the commission is higher, etc. As I said, we keep backups of all the transactions. Hopefully, it's gonna help us restore, sort of offset all these negative consequences if Stellar has to fail.
But I mean, if the blockchain of Stellar itself runs into problems, it'll affect the price of your token as well, which is kind of, in a way, not the stable coin, but the MTL token. Is that right?
Why?
Because it's built on top of the Stellar network, isn't it?
The MTL token price is determined by the current economic factors, such as the price of land, the price of the Bitcoin, how much gold we've got, how much cash we've got, etc.
Right. It's
it's pegged to the real thing.
So it's not traded on the open market.
It is traded on the open market, but basically what Stellar does, it actually shows you the price of the latest transaction as the current price. So it is dictated by the real the real transactions between people.
But what I mean is, if I went and bought an MTL token off somebody and paid like $100 for one token, would that make the market cap of MTL tokens skyrocket? I don't know what one of them is worth, but if it's just based on the last transaction,
not only is it based on the last transaction, but you will also, if you had Lobster Wallet installed on your phone, I would be able to show you. I can actually do this on my phone. So what we have here is trade. So we go to markets, and then trade custom pair, and then you'll be able to see. So you want to buy or sell MTL, and then there's your MTL. So here you'll see the current price based on the latest transaction. In the order book, you can see all the orders of people offering, buying and selling the MTL token based on their own idea of how much it can be worth, right? This is how free market works.
Yeah.
And the system basically gives you the best price if you're going to buy it or if you're going to sell it. So the spread isn't that big, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the guarantee that even if you decide to buy something for 100 years, first of all, or $100, the system will warn you that this is not the current price. There are better orders.
Yeah, sure. I know what you're saying, but in a system like that where you have them on an exchange, the price of the token is dependent upon the buyers and the sellers, not what it's backed by.
Yes, but it's also the price is determined by what the buyers and sellers think of this, but also it depends on the book value of the MTL token, which I told you.
And where can they? Right. Okay. So that's what the book value is. Where can they find out what the book value is then?
Right. It's in our reports, and it is based on the current price of the land, the current price of the Bitcoin, and all the assets that we have.
Yeah, and so they can look at that once a month, did you say? Or whatever?
It used to be once a week, but then it was
so once a month they can see that the book value should be 3.3 euros per token, which is roughly what it's trading at now. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to say that even though the reports are monthly, you can still see the book price updated every 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
So you can actually see it in real time.
Yeah. Right, I get it now. I didn't know what the book value meant before, but the book value is a number that you issue yourself just from your decentralized networks. Nothing.
There is a coefficient that we use. Again, I'm not good with numbers, but based on the current situation, based on the latest deals. For example, we know that someone in the neighborhood is selling or is buying land at this price, and this we would take as the current price. Then we multiply it by how much land we've got, and there you go. So we can see that thanks to the infrastructure, thanks to all the work that has been done, the price of land has gone up. The same goes for all the projects. We've got several businesses that are already working, and we have some return on investment. This also increases the price of the token because the fund gets the benefit. Obviously.
Okay.
That's what we call the dividends, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And based on all these factors, they calculate the book value. But you can only buy tokens based on this book value in bulk, right? If you buy 1,000 MTL tokens or more from the fund. Alternatively, you can go to the free market and just can buy as many MTL tokens as you want. It's just that the price cannot be guaranteed.
Right. And MTL tokens are only issued when real assets come into the system.
Exactly, yes.
So the second-hand market of MTL tokens is finite necessarily. It's finite in as much as, until someone brings some new assets into MTL.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Yes.
And yeah, once again, obviously that's to make the connection between the real world assets and the token is as a trusted thing. But I get it now. Your system is unequivocally based on a lot of trust, but that's something you're accepting. I'm only saying that because I am a Bitcoin maxi, and I'm into trustless value transfer. It seems it's the most important thing for me. But in this situation, I can understand that you've looked at the trade-offs and gone, okay, but this does help us to achieve our goal doing it this way. And it's interesting you've got some maxis, Bitcoin maxis here as well, and they have they offered up another way, because I'm trying to think whether you could do the same thing on the Bitcoin network, and not really yet, but it would be a layer that you would anticipate would exist in the future. Would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we would be more than excited to see some competing platforms. I mean, so if we see something better than this, I would wholeheartedly agree that maybe it's better to do it on the Bitcoin platform, But this is as good as we can get at the moment, and it's good enough. And also, the fund guarantees that they would buy back your MTL tokens at your request. So if you decide that you're not happy with the project, you can always leave and you can always get your money back. Maybe with a little commission, minus the little commission. Because the price, buying and selling, there's a spread, and obviously there's going to be a slightly different price. But yeah, maybe you might lose 1 or 2%, but you will still be able to leave at any moment.
Hopefully. It's trust.
Yeah,
Well,
it is trust, but this is, well, what alternative do we have? To go to the government and say we are a libertarian community who do what? Like, what would we say? Like, how would we
No, it's
guarantee?
very interesting. It is very interesting. I mean, one of the conversations I was having the other day was, though, that it didn't seem necessary to use a blockchain. That was what I was thinking. Everything that you're doing, you could just have created your own platform, website, and it wouldn't need to be a blockchain because it's based on trust. All you need to do is have a way of showing the owners of land and etc. how much land they have, or if they have a share in the business, how much that is. And I can see you're using the blockchain as a platform for that, but you could just as easily do it with your own, code and a website, because you don't need the blockchain for that.
Well, first of all, I don't think people would trust us more if we had built something from scratch, because at least Stella is already there and it is a working platform.
Yeah.
You can choose to use my MTL wallet bot, which you might trust more because you know the people who build the code. By the way,
that's what I used, isn't it?
Yes.
You built that yourself, did you?
Yes.
No,
Not
you personally. Yeah.
Yes.
Which was basically a way for me to spend your Euro stablecoin over Telegram, which I've never done before. It was pretty cathartic, I must admit, of a process. But I did manage to buy a hoodie from you with digital euros over Telegram, which was pretty cool. Even though, I mean, the UX, the user experience is not exactly,
Well, it's work in progress, but we at least for those people who would not like to share their private key with the Stellar network, because if you install Solar or Lobster, these are like the alternative wallets, you would still need to share the private key with them, right? And that puts you at some risks.
Yeah.
Then feel free to use our MyMTL wallet bot, but again, you don't have to. It's just it's good enough for small amounts of money if that's something that you would be willing to experiment with.
Yeah. Okay.
But I would disagree that this is like, we could easily just forget about the whole blockchain thing and I don't know, do something of our own, like a website, because I would like to remind whoever's listening to this that it's not only the land, it's also all the transactions between people. And we have their addresses, we have their names technically. It's the opposite of an anonymous network, right? Because this is something that people think of, the first thing that people think of when they think crypto. Some bunch of, I don't know, people dealing drugs, shady deals, that kind of thing. And nobody really goes by their real name or anything, and we'll never know like who got your money. Because here we can see, like, if I pay to have my house built, for example, on blockchain, I will see where this money will go. And I will see that I will have this money exchanged for some tokens, and my URMTL will go to the builders, and I can see like how these are going to be cached, like which treasurer at which time will give the cash to the builders, etc. So I can see everything. I can actually go back to the very beginning and I can look at the first transaction. And this is amazing. And I don't think you would be able to do this. And it would be very, very difficult to implement just on a website.
Yeah, no, you're right. It would not as easily be as transparent. But I think what gives blockchains a very bad name, other than the Bitcoin network, is that many of them, I would hazard a guess that almost all of them use their token in a kind of pre-mined way to generate income for them. And what inevitably happens is, and Stellar have done this as well, Stellar created a bunch of tokens and then sold them into the market, which is basically a way of basically stiffing your your users, really, because you're basically forcing the price down, and the only way that they're joining in the network is buying your tokens that you're sort of I think that's your phone going. You're buying their token. So, and that's why I find those blockchains always leave a bad taste in my mouth, because they've done that. They've always done that, and that's part of the business model. And also, like I say, you have to trust them. You have to trust that network. And if they decide one day that, you know, or if someone ends up doing something and the company fails, then it screws up everything you've been doing, and that would be a shame. That's the way I look at it. But yeah, it's the selling tokens to retail buyers, which are tokens that you've just created, that I don't like the thought of. I don't think that's a reasonable business model. Plus, it's just not good for your users, because you're basically selling your tokens to them. And at the same time, because you're selling into the market, the price is often going down.
Going down how?
Well, which is what's happened with. I mean, when you look at the price chart of most blockchains, especially the ones that started in 2018, they all go straight up. That's when people start selling into the market, and they follow this path down to practically zero. And that's because the founders who created the token are selling into the market all the way down in order to fund a project. That's how they make their money. Often. I think in most cases it's true. And every time there's a bit of a pump, then it never rises high enough, because they're always selling back into the market, and they own a large number of the tokens. I mean, most of these projects keep back. I mean, Ethereum did. It was like quite a lot, you know. And so, yeah, I don't like that way of doing business, but I think it also leaves you vulnerable, because you're using their network.
Well, we're using this network because it's convenient, because it's easy to use, because you don't have to install any other wallets, any other apps on your phone. And the huge difference between these projects that you've just described and our project is that it is backed by something. And there's an actual company that owns the land, that owns the assets, and they are kept securely. And the fund is not driven by the desire to actually get as much profit as possible, as you can see, because what we live off is basically 3 to 4% of interest annually, and it's not exactly a lot of money, is it? Also, the price, I don't think it might go down anytime soon because of the land, for example, because it's not nothing. It is a physical asset, after all. Cash is not nothing. It's a physical asset that you can see, right? You have the safe, right? And if we ask Soz or someone who is responsible, we'll be able to see the money that. And this is what I do as an auditor, right? I check this. I understand your concern that it is vulnerable, and that we could potentially suffer from the network or from the attitude of the general public. But again, we don't offer this to everyone, because when it comes to the tokens, land tokens, for example, we've run out of them. There aren't going to be any more. We've got the NFTs, and that's it.
You haven't got enough. There's no more land.
There's no more land left.
Yeah.
Right. So, and there's no what's the aim of actually creating more tokens, unless it was a scam?
Well, no. The aim would be, in your situation, imagine a time 5 years in the future when you need some money. The fund needs some money to buy a new building, and they haven't got enough. And the top 20 people will get together and say, "I know. Why don't we just create a bunch of new MTL tokens and use them?"
They can't.
Right,
it's
okay.
Impossible. You have to. I am among those 20 signatories that have to sign these transactions. And we do this in exchange for the money that comes into the system. So I can see, for example, someone is buying 1,000 euro MTL, so 1,000 MTL for 4,000 euro MTL. So I can see this transaction, and only then will the tokens be created. And vice versa. If the fund, if somebody returns the MTL to the fund, it's burned. We have a special bot that burns all the MTLs. Moreover, we have several bots that kind of do the exchanges, and we decided to burn the extra MTLs and your MTLs that were there, because we want to prevent that situation. Even though, like, in the bots, they're not gonna come out in any way, right? Unless someone actually bought it, unless somebody actually offered a good enough price that is determined by the market. But still, we would find it uncomfortable to actually keep some unrealized MTLs and your MTLs even in bots. So that's how it is.
Correct. I hear what you're saying. Like I say, my argument is that people are people.
Right. Okay.
and like, you know, imagine in 20 years I'm purely being hypothetical here, but imagine 20 years, all the people are different.
Sure.
And some people are like, look, we've got an opportunity here. We could do this. We can just kind of create. We've got this token that people want, these MTL tokens. And this is what happens to all human beings. All governments do this when they have if they have a central bank. They all in the end succumb to the...
But we're not the government.
The government,
again,
but they succumb to the temptation to just print money.
Yes, but that's different. As you can see, the system, I can't say that it's absolutely foolproof, of course. And as I say, one of the people who is on the list of the top 20 signatories can go crazy and can buy out all the MTLs, or as many MTLs as possible, and try to, I don't know, start creating more tokens. But we can always veto it. This is why we have 20. Actually, we could do more. It's just that Stellar Network wouldn't allow us to have more people. So this is why it has to be limited to 20. And I think 20 is a good enough number already, because 20 people, chances of 20 people actually agreeing on profiteering off the system are much lower than, I don't know, any government.
I'm not sure that they would profiteer. I'm thinking, imagine that the community was at a terrible situation and they really needed money. I'm sure everyone would agree that would be a method. That would be a way to... I mean, like something serious.
Let's say if you are on top of the signatories list, and if you decide that you need more money, okay, you can do this yourself. You can create your own token and say, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. And you're going to issue an offer to the rest of us and say, okay, this is why I think we need the money, or this is why I need the money. And if people believe you, they will invest in your project. This is how we've sort of invested in some projects that haven't returned any income yet, but we believe in them. Just in the same way, like why we've been getting more Bitcoin, because we believe in the price, because eventually the price will go up. Right now, like, it's wibbly wobbly, kind of.
It's always wibbly wobbly, man.
Well, yeah.
It's price discovery time.
Yeah, but like in 10 years' time, we expect...
One would expect it to be higher than...
But even with that, like, even if one of the tools, even if one of the activities we invested in were to fail, we still have the others. So it's like ETF, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or DAO, as you mentioned.
Traded funds.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they kind of overcompensate,
Yep.
right?
Okay, I'll stop going on about blockchains now.
No, we can go on. I mean,
no.
I'm willing to answer your questions.
I'm glad I've spoken about it, because I can see your point, and without looking into it, I would always try and solve that problem on the Bitcoin network, because it's the most secure and the most decentralized. But I don't know whether it's possible to do what you're doing. How would you create a DAO?
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it, and I suspect you can't yet. And so, anyway, let's move on to something else. I'm not sure I had any other questions, actually. Did you have anything that you'd thought about that we haven't talked? Any aspects of this project that we haven't covered that might be of interest to people?
That's a good question. Actually, I had some ideas in mind, but
go for it, dude. Like, I won't be here again, probably. That's the thing.
Well, you're more than welcome to come back.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd love to, funnily enough, I'd love to bring my family to Montenegro, come on holiday here, because it seems cool. It's like a really nice place, yeah. And it's just another one of those little countries, that certainly people from the UK don't really know anything about, and almost certainly don't really come here.
Yeah, mostly it's Spain or Portugal, as I remember.
Yes, yeah. Spain and Portugal are our things, but here it seems to be more Eastern Europeans and, Eastern Europeans. It's one of your kind of holiday destinations, so. But, so just in case I don't come back, I want to sort of pick up as much info as I can. So is there anything else you can think of?
I wanted to make it a little bit clearer how decisions are made. Again, I can show you, I could show you some of the chats. And lucky you, because you're not able to read Russian, because that is supposed to be kept secret. But whenever someone has an idea, they issue a sort of statement, right? Or offer, or whatever.
On Telegram?
On Telegram and one of our secret chats.
Okay.
That is not publicly available. Where they would need to clarify and justify the need to actually do this. And we have several chats for this offer. The first reading, the second reading, and the final reading. So it's very streamlined already. It's very well optimized, I would say. So in the first one, we just discuss the feasibility of the idea and the actual need for us to do this in the first place. If there are any objections, people can say what's on their mind, right? Or they can veto it right away because the idea is shit. Just don't. The second reading is when we just need to clarify a few wordings, when we need to reformulate something in such a way so that everyone would agree. And then we get to the final part when we actually put it on Stellar, and this is where we make the final decision. And not everyone, not like all the 20 people have to be on board, but like the majority, as long as nobody has vetoed it, of course. Then, so I think we've sort of improved the system recently, and I think it works better this way, because this gives everyone an opportunity to, from the list of top 20 signatories, to issue this offer, this statement, to have it discussed, and we allow some time before we actually we can go on to the next stage and the next stage. And this guarantees that everyone's more or less equal, right? Even if you have more votes, even if you have more MTLs, you can still, like even with one vote, you can still offer something. Like with DeFi, I think it was one of our like bottom 20 signatories that offered this, and we said, okay, go ahead.
When you say in the final stage it goes on to the blockchain, that means say you're about to pass a new objective, or not a law, you know what I mean, an objective, say. How does it get, what's the blockchain stage of that? How do you say it gets passed and everyone agrees on it? How does it then get written into existence?
Okay. I've personally never done it before because I'm not really good with this, but I've seen it. We have our own server, and we have a website specially designated for these operations. and we create a new line. I don't know whatever this is, right? A new line that is linked to one of these offers. And it's all in the books. We also add a little description to make sure that this is what we are talking about. This is that offer because it has a specific number, 30 or 31 or 41, etc.
And it's a visual thing like you're describing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And it shows all the kind of rules and regulations, or you know what I mean, all the ideas that are being implemented. Probably not rules and regulations.
No, like on the blockchain, you just have the number of that decision.
And a hash. Okay, right.
And the hash.
Right,
Exactly.
okay. So you can see currently what the community is putting its energy into, and you can check it's been authorized because it's got a hash.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
And then you have to physically add your signatures. And the process is pretty straightforward. And then when we have enough votes, it is published officially. And also, not only the top 20 signatories can actually see it, but anyone who has MTL is allowed to enter this other chat where they can actually see, or channel, I think, where they can actually see which decisions are made. So even if they are not in the inner circle, right, the board of directors, they can still see what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. So this is your governance model, isn't it? And it's,
in a way,
yeah, it is. I'm wondering, are there any other aspects of it that are interesting? Obviously, it's transparent to as much a degree as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other aspects of it that you can think of that are unusual comparatively to, compared to normal governance, which is very opaque and secretive?
Yeah.
And,
Well, the only thing I can think of is that because everything is done online, you don't actually have to be here to be able to implement these decisions. We do have our smaller council here, which can hold meetings every month or so just to discuss our current situation, right? But these are more optional things. We know that majority of people would be more than willing to come over and to discuss it in person because it's less routine, right? It's less just empty words and formulations. Because we speak the same language mostly, we are able to participate and we can just discuss if we don't want any of these decisions made. But mostly everything is done online, so even if you're living in a different country, you're still aware of everything that is going on.
Well, I think I've amassed a lot of information. I'm happy I know what's going on here. I just wanted to be able to talk about what you're doing here as authoritatively as possible. That's why I'm asking all these niggly little questions.
Nice.
Because this is a really interesting experiment, and I want to be able to talk about it with people because I think a lot of people are going to be interested in like I say, the governance model and how it works and how it's secured and how it's implemented. But B, this is an on the spectrum of free cities. This is more like the intentional community section, which is, funnily enough, is my pet favorite part because I come from this world,
mm-hmm.
the world of communities and a little bit more fluid, a little bit more anarchic. So I'm going to be watching with great interest as things progress, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
I hope that it has longevity and that it potentially becomes an example to others.
Yeah, that's where to go. Thank you.